What's my surname? What's my surname?
So I'm with you, Mark Cameron, yet again for another one of our chats, and it's great. We've had some of our bowlers from around the country who have put some questions through which they'd like us to discuss, which we will do. And look, please, when you read this or listen, watch this, whatever you want to do, share it with your friends, neighbours, whatever, and especially with bowlers, because the idea of this is to really start to get the communication story out there to as many people as possible. So, Mark, the first question that's come up from one of the questionnaires is about, can we please explain the rationale behind splitting the nationals away from the traditional singles, pairs and fours to singles and pairs as one event, and the fours later on?
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks for the introduction, and thanks for remembering my surname this time round. I appreciate that. Nationals split, it was about trying something different. Our numbers at Nationals for the past 10, 15 years have consistently dropped. So we felt that splitting them apart and putting them in two different areas of the country may well boost some of those numbers. We'll trial it out, see how it goes this summer. If it's not working, if it's not the solution, then we'll look for another alternative. But that's the thinking. Because the reality is that when you put nationals in a region, you pretty much get 60 to 70% of the numbers are coming out of that local region.
Correct.
So by splitting nationals, and this year it's Wellington and Auckland, we are thinking hopefully that we'll get a decent regional representation into those two tournaments.
Well, the feedback that I've had initially, there was the guns at dawn scenario, but I think talking to people now, there's a greater understanding of it. And I'm sure that it's going to work well. That Auckland at that time of the year, starting on January the 2nd, we're away from traffic difficulties really, and Wellington for the fours over about a 4-day, 5-day period, I think, isn't it?
Yep.
Section play and post section. So I endorse what you say. Let's give it a go. And am I right in saying that there's a change in the prize money this year as well for the?
Yeah, we've increased the prize money. I think we might have made mention of that on our last conversation. So prize money's popped up by another $6,000, I think it is, which is not huge and significant, but we are looking obviously to invest a little bit more in this competition.
And we bring the Somerset on board.
Oh, we haven't done that, yeah, have we?
No, as
Somerset Nationals.
Somerset Nationals is
yes.
the naming rights sponsors for that event. So obviously now Bowls New Zealand have got a strong alliance with Somerset. Partnership.
We're very appreciative of Somerset coming on board. They're supporting not only Nationals this year, but we've got an awards ceremony happening at Eden Park September the 14th, so they're sponsoring that, and they're also supporting putting the tablets into the clubs as well. So we are very appreciative of what Somerset has brought to the table in terms of how we deliver bowls out into the communities.
So the next point, and thank you to Somerset, and great to have a new partner, a new sponsor on board with us, and new naming rights for the Nationals. So obviously high performance was going to be a question
yes.
that we knew was going to come up. So firstly, what steps is Bowls New Zealand taking to ensure the Blackjacks are keeping up with play? The second part of that question, has there been a review on the Commonwealth Games? If so, what decisions arose from it? And then the third part and last part of it, what funding does Bowls New Zealand receive from High Performance New Zealand? Did this change after our results in the Commonwealth Games? So the first part was about what steps are we embarking upon to make sure that our Blackjacks or squad members or high performance people are performing to the required level.
I'll answer the second one as well. So we have done a Commonwealth Games review, a very detailed review. It got dropped on my desk the other day, and it's 84 pages in length. I managed to read the first 14, and which was the summary at the front. Look, the review highlights a number of things, but I'll pick on two. Is one, we need to invest in the talent pathway. So we can't just continue to invest in the top 10 or 12 bowlers in this country. We need to invest in the tiers below that. The second part identified is that we need to invest in coaching, in high performance coaching. And as a sport, we're challenged from a resourcing perspective, but we do need to invest as much as we're looking to invest in the players going forward. We need to invest in the coaches, and that's the flavour. So we are now 3 months into the development of a new high performance plan or strategy. We spent the weekend down in Nainai discussing it with a group of coaches Friday, Saturday. We discussed the version 12 of our high performance plan, and we expect to keep building on this. We are very much in a space now, though, of knowing that we need to work hard in this space, talent identification, coaching, and we need to get out there and involve the bowls community in that discussion as well.
Is it fair to say as well, Mark, from a coaching point of view, that when players get to the level that we want them to be at, the coaching takes on a more complex role. More complex role, and coaching is also about the person, the individual, the management of the personnel as well. Is that part of the whole philosophy?
Yeah, in high performance nowadays, you hear the word mental skills being used quite a lot, which is really about what's happening up there with the player. Top 2 inches. We are good as a sport, I think, technically and tactically from a coaching perspective. But when it comes to those things like mental skills, leadership, building the complete package in the top 2 inches, like a lot of sports, we have a long way to go. And that's the area we're really looking to tackle, and not only upskill our players though, but again I'm emphasising upskilling our coaches as well.
So no doubt as well, with the high performance program, which will be released soon, no doubt, after further discussions, and the talent identification program, and the Summer of Bowls scenario takes on a very important part, I would imagine, of all of that coming together.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's one thing to say that we're going to invest in talent and develop that talent, but we need to make sure we give them opportunities and tournaments and competitions to play in. And we need to measure how they perform in those competitions as well. And that's where the Summer of Bowls events come into play, as well as nationals and intercentre and other competitions. So we are very much looking to track players' performance over the summer, and these bigger national events or domestic events are really important to us.
And what about the point about the funding? About Bowls New Zealand see the funding. Did this change after the results of the Commonwealth Games? I think it's fair to say that all of that's under review process naturally, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the real drives for getting our high performance plan sorted out now is that we will look to apply to High Performance Sport New Zealand November, December of this year for a new funding round going through to the 2020 World Champs. So we are in that space of preparing a funding application, and we'll wait to see what the results are in December.
So moving on to pathways and under-8s. Now we know there has been a lot of talk around the bowling fraternity about the pathways and under-8s, and one of the questions we've got is how do we get under-8s back in the future for the development of our game players and coaches, and are you planning to start a new competition to replace under-8s? So we'll address those 2 points first.
Yeah, under-8s, that's one of the, with Pathways and Interclub Sevens, it's one of the 3 national events that we parked this summer, with a view that we would review and get feedback. That hasn't meant that under-8s has just collapsed regionally within our centres. And within our centres, that's still there. There's still a layer available to our under-5s, under-8s players. I don't sense. We're not going to bring in a national under-8s this summer. We're going to continue to monitor the feedback and see what that feedback is in terms of the pathway for those junior players. So that's where we're at now. We'll have a different conversation when we get to pathways.
Because I had this conversation with last week in Australia, up on the Gold Coast, right? What they do, and the viewpoint is, which I agree with, and I think it's been prevalent for a long time, and it falls back to some ownership of the regions as well. But with having the right talent identification program and high performance program, the players, male, female, however, who have got the talent, or a para player who have showed the talent, are going to be absorbed into this new talent identification and high performance program, and to have opportunities to play in events where we can watch them play against, let's say, the top calibre of player.
Yeah, well, that's the challenge, and that's what we'll monitor over the summer, is what is happening to that tier of player, those very good under-8s, under-5s players, what competitions are they now slotting themselves into, and let's get a measure on that, and that's what we'll look to do over the summer. If it's not working, if we're finding that there is a really big gap for those those talented under-8s players, and they're not being, monitored, looked after, then we'll review it. Because let's see how the summer goes.
Yeah, the danger is, of course, that and this our sport has been guilty of it. You have an event to have an event. We've got to have events which are going to deliver an outcome and are going to deliver something further down the track, isn't it? So I think we've got to have a summer of sitting back, watching and observing, and then seeing where things go. 1920.
So bearing in mind, we'll talk about pathways in a minute as well, but there was an overarching strategy here which was to declutter the calendar. So by removing some of these events, we've actually now pushed it back on the centres and the regions and said, here you go, here's some weekends back. Now let's see what comes out of that. And we've seen with the Summer of Bowls, you would have seen with, I think Stoke have got a new tournament.
Yep.
Dunedin with North East Valley, Canterbury with a Fives tournament. There's some tournaments now popping into our calendar, significant tournaments that provide some of our talented players another opportunity.
Well, I was just going to compliment, in fact, some of the regions. Nelson being one, Canterbury, Wellington, especially. That I've seen so far, who have picked the opportunity up, and we've got like Nainai are going to have a women's event. Stoke are looking also as a women's singles event.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, and I think we need to remember that in years gone by, some of these events were actually on the calendar and a fairly high profile on the calendar. What it's enabled us to do now is for clubs and regions to take the initiative and again get these profiled events out in the bowling calendar. And of course, they've picked up very good sponsorship as well for these events. So, I think that's a big plus. I think we've seen with the decluttering effect.
Yeah, look, I'll be blunt. I'd have loved to have seen some sort of under-8s type event pop into that summer calendar as well. Hasn't happened yet. May well happen in the future.
So with the pathways, can we clarify the current and future situation with pathways and programs that have been cancelled? We've done that. And what the new development pathway will be for new bowlers. Well, we're endeavouring to do that with some of the events which are on. And why have you done away with pathways? Now, I know there's been debate about that.
Yep.
And,
okay, so pathways for the same reasons as the under-8s, but I will say this now, is that one thing I heard loud and clear as I went around the country back in May, June, was the importance of having a pathway for the average club bowler to achieve a New Zealand title. Now, Nationals doesn't deliver that, primarily because of the composite side scenario. And inter-centres don't deliver that either, because they are the best of the best from the region. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to actually survey our membership about bringing back a pathways structure of sorts. And what we're looking to I guess feed off is the existing champ of champions structure that exists within club and centres. So if you follow the logic, you have a club champ of champion, they go on to the centre title. Should we have them going on to a New Zealand title for champ of champions? Which doesn't actually add any more clutter to the summer calendar if we position it right through those later months. So,
I think the positive out of that, Mark, really is that Bowls New Zealand have listened to some of the commentary that's been out there, and you're travelling all around the countryside, which you've been doing, visiting a lot of clubs and talking to people. So Bowls New Zealand have taken this on board and saying, right, well, let's try and find a compromised environment which we're going to try and deliver something relevant to the pathways.
So I don't know if we've got the answer yet, and that's why this time around we're actually just going to create we're going to survey the membership and say, what do you think? What do you think about the idea of having a New Zealand Champ of Champions? When should it be? What's the format? What disciplines are most important to you as well?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because, see, this is where I feel we got cluttered before, because we did used to have a New Zealand Champion of Champions. Then we brought in the pathways as well, virtually two kindred events, so to speak. So by cutting out one, perhaps we can, bring something back, because we did have a lot of events and there was some duplications, and now we can look at opportunities that may come prevalent in the 2019-20 season.
Yeah, or it may even happen from the 18-19 season as well. I mean, if we were to run a Champions over the, I don't know, September or August, September, October, based on the previous season's winners, we could actually do it heading into 2019. But I don't know, and look, I'm always cautious here of saying we don't have the solution here. Let's go and get some feedback on this and see what people think. It won't be the perfect answer for everybody. A number of people still love, the Pathways competition as it stood. But let's see what the feedback is.
Well, look, I think to all you people out there watching on Facebook on this live stream, and who are going to watch it afterwards, the important message out of this, to me, is that Bowls New Zealand have taken some of the commentary on board and are committed to try to do something about it, to deliver something. So that's a plus.
Yep.
So now, we're back to high performance, I suppose now. Someone's asked about selection criteria. The selection policies at some centres seem to be biased. What do Bowls New Zealand recommend to do to combat this? Do you have plans to implement anything? This really relates to the regions and...
I mean, that's difficult for us. I'm not going to cry resource and say we've got limited resource to be engaged in this, but really, the regions, the centres, they're their own entities in themselves, and they'll have their own policies and criteria. We're happy to endorse selection criteria. We're happy to provide them with templates, but ultimately, it really is important that centres are, the masters of their own domain in this area.
Absolutely, and of course geographics in some centres as well make a big difference. Wellington is different to say Dunedin or Invercargill, and so there are differences there as well. I just say to people out there, like, enter in the events and do well, and you're the person that can you're the people that can put the pressure on the selectors to say, pick me. And I think as well, as the high performance program gets underway and the talent identification gets underway, I think the hope would be that there would be some, as there used to be, some dialogue between regional or provincial selectors and New Zealand selectors about players that you want to sort of see and have a look at and give them an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that's why we've also taken a little bit of lead around that Summer of Bowls calendar, and we've said that, right, A, the events need to be all open, but B, we're going to reserve 2 spots in each of those events so that we can use those spots for some of that identified talent to ensure that they are getting out there and playing in competitions that they may never have been invited or considered entering.
Well, pleasing to see. I know you'd have seen as well last week, the Stoke Piers, for example, is already full.
Yes.
32 teams.
Except for the 2 spots that we've got.
The 2 Bowls New Zealand spots, which will be filled, obviously.
Yes.
And the question's been raised again about the 60-plus age group. Has much thought been given to establishing more representative opportunities for the 60-plus, for example, international over 60s versus Australia and inter-centre over 60s?
Someone's been reading my emails, have they? So we have. So we in fact, it was a innovation coming out of Australia was to run a Australia New Zealand over 60 series or test series. So something we are considering. It's all about timing. Our international calendar is largely dictated by Asia Pacific World Champs and Com Games, so it's potentially tying it into that. But absolutely, our key strength, shall we say, is that demographic, that over 60.
Yes.
Why not? It's just a matter of time. We will have something in that international space.
But again, we've seen Bowls New Zealand listening to what's been said. Now, indoor bowls. Do we see any value in indoor and outdoor bowls working closer together?
So you're referring to the short mat?
The short mat. Yeah, I presume. Yes, that's what it meant. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what that looks like, we don't know, but it does make sense. If indoor bowls is keen on conversation, then yes. I mean, I presume, I don't know enough about the detail, but I presume that a number of outdoor bowlers in the winter move to indoor and vice versa.
Big number. Like Gary Lawson's a case in point. He's a New Zealand indoor champion. Ellie Forsyth is. The Rainers out of Wellington.
Yes.
There's a number of them who, the Boardmans, for example. So there is a number. Yeah. And the 2 sports have always been sort of split apart. But yeah, I think there would be an opportunity to work some of those, work together. So
It absolutely makes sense.
retirement villages. What's Bowls New Zealand thinking about doing for the increasing number of bowling club members living in retirement villages? Well, I don't suppose we can dictate who lives in retirement villages.
No,
but,
no. Although I heard Somerset's a very good retirement village.
Yes.
So if you want to live in a retirement village, mate, I recommend you have a look at a Somerset one.
Well, look, I've got friends of ours who are in retirement villages around the country, and they've all got bowling greens there.
Yep. I think the question, if I understand the question, it's more about how do we link back the retirement villages, those playing bowls in those retirement villages, back into clubs, and how do we build a relationship between, as opposed to people leave their clubs and go to the retirement villages and are never heard of again. How do we keep them involved? And I think it's an opportunity for us. It's something that we should be figuring it out and working with the Rymans and the Somersets and the likes to actually, is there an opportunity to run a inter-retirement village type competition?
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity to have a discounted rate, I don't know, back into the club?
Perhaps even, but I don't know if it works or not, but some of the centres that I know that they, for example, they have midweek interclub, so is there an opportunity, or use Auckland as an example, right, where they do have midweek interclub, is there a way then how you can encompass the retirement village people as being part of that? I don't know, but there's certainly, I think, room, isn't there, to have some involvement together.
And we've got to be very appreciative that just about most retirement villages in this country have a bowling green.
They do.
They're investing their money into a bowling green. Fantastic.
So the big move this year, of course, is Bowls 3-5, and it's great to see like I've seen so far, Gore, Stoke, even the Stokes Valley side.
Yep.
They're already on Facebook. And talking to Australia, they know about our event. Talking to Mark Casey and Ryan Bester and those guys, they know about the Bowls 3-5. So that's a plus. So what was the criteria and who made the selection decision for the players and teams in the Bowls 3-5 televised league?
Oh, the teams was Bowls New Zealand. So I think we sent out expressions of interest out to each of the clubs, and we ended up with 11, 12 clubs respond, and from there we selected 6. A range of criteria. The reality, the big one though was that level of enthusiasm that was coming from the club. That was probably the one that we were really looking for, and you see it in some of you'd mentioned the Facebook, etc., from some of these clubs now. So we selected our clubs, 6 out of the 11 or 12. However, the players within the clubs, that's the club's domain. We don't influence who's playing for a team or for a club. That's for them to determine themselves.
So if a club, for example, wanted to invite a player to let's say, whoever it might be.
Kevin Hicklin's going to be invited to play for Stoke.
Yep. So the clubs have got that right to do so, is that? Or
no, they have to be members of the club.
They have to be members of that club.
So they may invite you to be a member of the club.
Yeah.
Have they invited you to be a member of the club?
Not.
They haven't.
No.
Okay.
I have to tell Jimmy Pugh that, but that's all right.
So no, I mean they can obviously issue put out a membership to recruit.
But the whole Bowls 3-5 concept though has a domino effect all the way back from there, doesn't it, as well, for clubs and business house, and
yes.
So it's the new, that is the one constant new, which is really in the Bowls calendar now, isn't it?
Yeah, look, this is our big thing this summer, and as much as we'll talk about pathways and under 8s and decluttering. One of the reasons we decluttered was to give this format a bit of space. So Bowls 3-5 is going to be available televised league on Sky Sport. Obviously, we're very appreciative there. Tuesday, Wednesday nights, 3 hours a night.
Live.
And every club playing every night. And then the domino effect that you talk about is that there'll be an interclub competition for all clubs to take part in a 3-5 format or tournament, league. And then down one step further is getting 3-5 into that casual bowls market.
So how have the centres so far, from your feedback, picking up the concept of having their own regional Bowls 3-5 interclub or competition?
I thought this year, so year one for me personally in Bowls 3-5 was about the TV product, getting that right. And I thought the interclub and the casual bowls market could feed in year 2, 3 once people saw it on TV and grasped it. And I thought, oh well, okay, if we can get 10 of the 27 centres involved this year, we've done a good job. I think we're sitting about 18 or 19 centres that are going to be playing Bowls 3-5 Interclub, which I think is great. You know, I tagged maybe 10 clubs to run a Bowls 3-5 casual format. We'll have in excess of 50, I think, clubs that are involved in that. And they're driving it themselves. They're not waiting for Bowls New Zealand to come along and go, you shall do this, or you need to do this, or this is how you do it. There's a lot of energy out there in the bowls community for this, which is great. And I think once they see it on TV, this is not elite sport, our Bowls 3-5, even on TV. You know, we'll have some good players playing, but it's really trying to show that bowls is a game that anyone can play. It doesn't matter your ability, doesn't matter your age, gender, ethnicity. You can play this game.
So really, it's about taking the product to the wide market, isn't it?
It is.
That's really what it's about, isn't it? That we're getting bowls out there, yes, in a competitive environment, but the sport out there to the wide market.
It is. It is. I mean, we're going to have an 18-year-old and I'll say a 70-odd-year-old.
70 plus.
70-plus-year-old playing in this competition. It's male, it's female. You know, it's going to be a range of abilities. And I think that's great because there's not many sports. Generally, when you hit Sky Sport, you see the elite players.
Correct. You
don't see the casual market. And if we can combine that imagery, which is anyone can play, with that sort of darts atmosphere that you know, if you watch the darts in recent weeks on Sky, if we can build some of that atmosphere into our product, then we're not only saying that anyone can play, but it's fun to play. You know, it's not serious.
It's breaking down some of the barriers that have been there in the past, which I think is a big plus. So just in closing, Mark, a few weeks' time we've got the Bowls New Zealand annual general meeting. We've got the awards function on the Friday night, is that correct?
14th, yep.
And did you know tickets going well for that? Is that all?
Oh, it's pretty much a closed event. So it's So it's Have you been invited? No, you haven't been.
Yes, I have been invited.
Oh, geez.
And I've responded. All right.
Look, if people do want to purchase tickets, they're more than welcome to come along to the event. But we're not going out there and treating this as a revenue generator. It really is about acknowledging the award winners.
Yep.
And that's what this is there. So we will acknowledge those that have won awards, including our new Hall of Fame recipient. That's the purpose of the evening.
And then the next day, the Bowls New Zealand annual general meeting, where I think there's some good stories to not stories, but there's a good debate of what's actually growth in membership slightly, and a profit as well. For the year. So,
how do you know that?
Well, it's funny. Well, you and I have talked. But as you come to the end of your first full year, you can reflect with some progress and some good results for the sport.
Yeah, look, I was on a bit of a course last week, and they were they're talking about, other CEOs were talking about how their sport's going, etc. And one guy, I can't remember the Maori for it, but he said, I just subscribe to the just do it philosophy. Sometimes you've got to just get in there and do it, take the hits, take the positives and negatives, but actually get in there and do it and make some change. And I think for me that's probably year one. It's just getting in there and doing it. I've been, I think, and I'd like to think that people think I've been out there and communicating, but also I've been making some decisions. Year two is about going through those, working through those decisions and making sure that we consistently get feedback and review those decisions. And then year three, we start to refine some of these things. So I don't anticipate that Bowls 3-5 is going to be perfect in year one. We certainly haven't nailed the levy model proposition that we put out to the community. We just keep improving. Now we're in that improvement stage. But year one, back to your point, was listening, was getting out and about, coming up with some change, putting some change on the table, and now we'll work through it, reflect on it, and hopefully the sport moves forward.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. And there it is, people. Another chat with Mark Cameron, our CEO, as we move forward towards the Summer of Bowls and, of course, the Bowls 3-5 event, the televised event. I think we've got an exciting year ahead. And the really good thing that I think is going to happen this year is that Bowls is going to be, via social media and other outlets, but especially via social media, it's going to be in your lounge on a regular basis with events and commentary like discussions you and I are having,
yep,
and results of events, all sorts of things. The staff of Bowls are very committed. The two ladies, Erin and Tamara, are very committed to make sure that we are creating that constant profile out there. And I think we can go into the 2018-19 season with a lot of positives. And let's just get on, as you rightly just said before, let's get on and do it, support it, and have fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you for your time.